Our next panel will include the expertise of doctors and nutrition specialists. They will share their insight on how to keep your kids well and what a healthy diet really means. Mirela, Vanessa, and Pavla, the stage is all yours.
Welcome to our panel today. We're very excited to be here with you all. We are here with doTERRA and some experts in nutrition to talk to you today about kids and nutrition. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to, first of all, Mirela.
Thank you, Vanessa. I come from a different, very colorful background. I have a dual degree in fine art from Cornell University, and that's my previous life. And then I have a degree in nutrition from the University of Medicine in Transylvania, in Târgu Mureș. Since all my family is from a medical background, we now reunited under the same roof of an integrative medicine clinic here in Târgu Mureș, where we are somehow succeeding in marrying traditional medicine with complementary practices. And so that's been my long life dream. And that very well goes along with my working with the oils, both in my practice and in my personal family life. So that's about me. Professionally, I'm also the mother of 2 children. I like to joke that I'm the Romanian mother of 2 Italian children and an Italian husband. So I come from a Mediterranean diet perspective in nutrition. That's about me, Vanessa.
Beautiful. Lovely to have you here. Thank you. And it gives me great pleasure to also introduce Pavla. If you could tell us a little bit more about you.
Hello, Vanessa. Very nice to meet you. And I'm really glad and thank you for our invitation to participate here in this very nice talk. My background is that I'm a doctor. I just studied like classical medical university, like Charles University in Prague. And I used to work like a doctor in a hospital and as well as a practitioner doctor. But like the holistic medicine and functional medicine is like going like red lines through all my career. And one very, very big part of my life, I was running my own small spa based on colon hydrotherapy and detoxification and also focused on a nutritional thing. And I was cooperating with the German company Metabolic Balance a very long time. So these things like holistic medicine and natural medicine, it's my passion all my long life.
Wow, that's great. We've got some very exciting skills on board. So lastly, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Vanessa. I'm a nutritional therapist. I'm also an NLP practitioner, which is neuro-linguistic programming. So my passion really comes from dealing with the mindset of healthy eating. My specialism is really helping mothers with children. So I really love doing that, and anything related to gut health. So this is a real passion of mine to be here with both of you to talk about a topic that's very close to my heart. And I know most of us have been with doTERRA essential oils as well and use them rigorously in our practice as well. And so how to get children to eat more fruits and vegetables? How do you do that every day, Pavla, in what you do?
So as I can admit that my kids are a little bit older, like one is 19 and second is like 24 or something like this, university kids. So I remember these times then when it was like challenging, and it was all my concern to keep them eating many fruits, and what I used, like it was like to cut them fruits and to prepare it or to be it prepared all the time on a plate or anything to have it anytime.
Wonderful, thank you. And you, Mirela, how do you manage to get children to eat more fruit and vegetables?
Well, I always like to tell parents and remind myself every day that we are mirrors for our children. So what we do, they will be doing. So the fruit you have on your plate, the fruit you have in the house, on the table, is exactly what they will be used to seeing and consuming, because they see you consuming them. So first thing, you adults should consume fruits and vegetables in abundance, and then children will do it automatically. Also, I go by the rule, in sight, in mind, out of sight, out of mind for the bad things, because children are very fast in getting used to bad things as well as good things. So what they see, they go for. They're instinctive. We know how they are. So I have a green fridge instead of a no color fridge, full of things that are not nutritious dense. So those are two of my main strategies. Maybe you can add some more, Vanessa.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it's very difficult for children today because they're bombarded with choice. And I think we have to kind of navigate those choices for children. So think about when you're offering fruit and veg, are you making it appealing, and are you giving other choices at the same time? Because it's very easy for children, if they've got a whole plate of fruit and vegetables and you're putting chocolate bars on the side, for them to gravitate towards those chocolate bars. So I think we have to be very careful about the choices that we give our children, because too much choice, and also choices that we've got to remember their taste buds are going to naturally gravitate towards salt and sugar, is going to confuse children and not enable them to taste the beautiful flavors of fruit and vegetables. This was certainly my experience, because I grew up, I think, having a very varied diet and having a lot of fruit and vegetables, but I couldn't necessarily taste all the subtle flavors of fruit and vegetables because I was bombarded with sugar and salt, which is very prevalent in today's society. So I try and give lots of fruit and vegetable as the first point of call, and then if you want to give some of the other foods, give them afterwards, but it's an extra, not an either or, and then that enables them to make their choices a little bit more effectively. So leading on from that, how many fruit and vegetables should we be eating for us, and I guess for children as well, right? Because there's a lot of different advice out there, and it can be confusing for parents to know how much is enough. What do you think, Mirela? What do you think?
Well, to make somehow an average between all guidelines, because there's the American Nutritional Society guidelines, there are the European ones, so it's all varied, but I think we can all agree on consensus that around 400 grams of fruit, so that's about 4 portions, 2 of fruit, 2 of veggies, or 3 to 1 or 2 to 1. I mean, 400 grams is more or less what we agree. And I prepared for a visual for this because it's actually very little. People think, oh, 400, that's half a kilo. Look what that is. And this actually exceeds. Look how small these balls are. This is how much berries, and children who eat fruit and veggies, they would just go through this in 5 minutes. Grapes, grapes. This is the base for a nice little salad of carrot, tomato, peppers, and a little bit of cabbage. And this actually goes to 600 grams. So let me take one off, and that is the 400 grams, which is not a lot. And it's very easy to reach. It's just parents should somehow understand what this means and how easy it is to integrate it by attractive techniques, using these attractive techniques of color, positioning on the plate, interesting way of proposing it, making the child see that you are eating this, and then I think it's quite easy to get to those guidelines.
So Pavla, you probably have your own guidelines that you had as a doctor, and probably now as you do holistically. What do you think we should be doing about enough fruit and veg for children?
I totally agree what Mirela said, because it's like 400, 500, as we saw on the plate, like 600 grams. It's really like nothing. Yes, we can do it. We all know that when we offer it our kids like proper way, they can eat very simply. There is another thing I'm concerned about, and this is the amount of the vitamin and mineral it's inside right now, because I don't know, probably I'm sure you are studying these the same resources, and we can see that this amount of minerals and vitamins is completely different, and much lower than it was, I don't know, 50, 60, and even 30 years ago. And we really have to think about how we get it to our children, yes, because of course we know that we have to eat like, we really would like to all of us eat very great food and very great vegetables, to have it from farmers and to have it from locals. It will be absolutely the best way. But as I'm saying, you in England, me in Czech Republic, we are lucky this way only few weeks in a year. I'm jealous about the Mediterranean people. They have a completely different lifestyle in this point of view. But still, I think that we really should think about how to supplement these minerals and vitamins to kids, because it's necessary, really, because the kids cannot grow properly without these micronutrients.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we are at an epidemic of children who are now overfed but undernourished. And I think one of the things that manages their cravings is they really craving these micronutrients. And you're absolutely right, because they can't even go through detoxification processes, which we really need today. We are bombarded with toxic chemicals, and we can't do those pathways of detoxification unless we have all of those micronutrients. So I absolutely agree. I know that the guidelines are really sort of between 4 to 5 portions a day. I think if we want to live in health and live with abundant energy, we really need to be looking at 8, 9, 10 portions. But you have to start from a starting place. And I think this is where the government guidelines come in. Most people aren't even eating those 4 or 5 portions. So we need to start at a starting point of introducing and getting children used to more fruits and vegetables. So I think that really brings me on to a really great question. I think breakfast is a really foundational part of getting our children to eat healthier, and it's probably the one that needs a little bit of help and support. I know I have my ideas about how we can get more fruit and veg into our diet for breakfast, but I would love to hear what you guys think. Pavla, how do you encourage children to eat more fruit and vegetable, or start their breakfast with a healthier start to the day?
Actually, we used to start many years. Our first meal, like breakfast in the morning, was yogurt with apple, like with one apple. So I was so nice. I usually cut them, yes, to do yogurt, and put some cinnamon in the top of it, and it was like a very general and a very long-term breakfast in our home.
That sounds delicious. And what about you, Mirela? What do you do for breakfast to give children a good start?
Well, as I told you, coming from the Mediterranean diet point of view, our breakfast means cereal, fruit, nuts and seeds. So that's about the combination, which can come in any form possible. Could be a porridge with some nuts or hemp seeds on top and some berries, or it can be in the shape of crepes with homemade marmalades, sugar-free, some other fresh fruit on the side, or a freshly squeezed orange juice with lemon, orange. That could be another form of it. It's always cereal, or it's biscuits, rolled oats, biscuits with fruit, dried fruit, because then we have this whole discourse about calcium, about iron. Parents are usually very worried for their children's intake of these micronutrients, minerals, and so on. And so we make sure there's a little bit of everything in there, but also with the right combinations, so that the absorption of calcium is facilitated, that of iron is facilitated, because we know the two mechanisms interact. And so be careful with that as well. What I wanted to add before, and to the discourse before, but also connecting to the discourse of nutrients, micronutrients, it is in the end a matter of absorption. And that's exactly what you girls were saying, that we need a healthy colon to be reaching to that optimal absorption. And so we need to ensure that our children have a healthy gut in order to process and to absorb the best and the top of amount of their vitamins. We know that children absorb more than adults, and that is because their colon is generally healthier. The younger they are, the healthier they are. We adults are the ones who ruin this beautiful curve. And so, so for that precise fact, you are right, Vanessa, in saying that we should maybe even double the amount of raw fruit and veggies that we and our children eat, because only part of it will be absorbed. And then Pavla, you are even more right, saying that our fruit and veggies are deprived of a lot of those nutrients because the soil is not reaching those nutrients anymore. Our waters are more and more polluted, unfortunately, and therefore we should also increase consumption in order to increase absorption. And that's summing up what you were saying. And just one more thing to add is that we had a test in the food chemistry department in the university, testing beta carotene in organic versus non-organic carrots. I have to share with you the fact that the non-organic carrots had almost none. I cannot even give you a percentage because it was somewhere close to 0 point something of beta carotene, while the organic ones had somewhere around 60%. So not 100%, so that's exactly what we were talking about. Maybe to be on the safe side, we can state from clinical studies that the amount of nutrients in our food, even food coming from organic sources, is somewhere half to be on the average side. So that's why, yes, we should encourage our children to increase consumption. Again, it's not a lot, it's handfuls, it's 2-3 handfuls. Just think of their tiny little hands and double that. And that's where you are, right, Vanessa?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on the organic side. I think in today's society, we've come to think of organic as a luxury item, and we've become used to food becoming very, very cheap. When the reality is we need to take the food back to how it's grown naturally. And that's what organic is. It's how it was grown ancestrally without all the pesticides and fertilizers and genetic modification. It's really taking it back to how food used to exist. So we need to revisit how we spend our money and do it wisely, because health should be our most important wealth. So, and investing that into our children for only a few pence more is such a valuable resource that we can give our children. I absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly on that. So for me, breakfast, I think it's such an important meal of the day, because it's one of those things that we want to send our children to school feeling full and able to concentrate. This is something that a lot of children can struggle with, being able to sit at school, being able to concentrate, being able to last until lunchtime. I'm a big advocate of porridge because I think it's full of energizing B vitamins, and when we put it with things like berries for antioxidants, It can be a really filling breakfast to be able to have. I also like smoothies, and I think you can make those really appetizing for children. And to start with, if they're not used to smoothies, you can make them super sweet with just fruit. Well, just fruit to start with, and maybe you can add a couple of dates. And then you can smuggle in some extra greens. You can use green powders, you can add vegetables, and then you're getting extra micronutrients in. I would say you can even get your 5 a day in at breakfast if you want to, and send your children off with a really healthy, sustainable breakfast. So it's something that we do quite a lot at home.
And since we're looking at this issue holistically, one more thing I would use, and I would suggest parents to use as a tip, is to look at that fruit that you mentioned, the breakfast fruit, in the form of a natural toothbrush for their children, because an apple is solid, and it will also clean your child's dental surface once their breakfast is over. So that's also, again, very important to maintain the healthy dental structure, healthy microbiome in the mouth. And you can do that as simple as you can with an apple or any solid fruit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the pectin in apple is so good for digestion. If you've got constipated children, it's really going to help with the colon moving, and also really hydrating. I think we have lots of children who are dehydrated, and that's something that really affects digestion, inflammation, also, you know, for the release of toxins, you've got to be fully hydrated. So having extra fruit in the diet really helps to keep children hydrated. So what do we do when we have fussy children? Because this is something I know I get asked a lot. How do you get very fussy children to eat more fruits and vegetables? How would you do that, Mirela?
Well, I get this question every single day because parents sometimes mistake fussiness for an expression of their child, of their own independence. So sometimes they say no to something. It's not because it's a categorical no or they don't like it, but it's because they want to express that independence. So allow them to say no, but continue to propose. And to show them the colorful plates of fruit and vegetables. What I always suggest parents to do when children are a little bit resistant to maybe eating fruit is ice cream, popsicles. Ice cream is the number one thing that every child on this earth would run to. So then you can choose your own version of very easy homemade ice creams, popsicles. It's just blending fruit with maybe honey, with some coconut milk or water, or you can choose your own formula as simple as possible. And then there it goes in the freezer, in the fridge. It could be a sorbet, it could be an ice cream, it could be a popsicle, and then any child on this planet will accept it. So be as creative as possible with this, and change the shape of that apple that maybe they don't want to accept today. They will accept it in the shape of an apple sorbet.
I think that's very wise advice. I think sometimes when children aren't used to the taste of lots of fruit and vegetables, actually disguising it can be a really great first step for getting them used to eating more fruits and vegetables. What about you, Pavla? What do you do when you have fussy children?
I know that I think that to make things simple as it's possible, because when it's simple for us, we can do it repeatedly. And I think the simple things are for kids more attractive too. So I think simple thing like is an apple and a carrot. When we mix it together and put, I don't know, few drops of the lemon into it, so it's so yummy, and I don't remember a single day when my kids say, "Oh, I don't like it." As they always love it, and I was like, "Oh, so I got you," because it works every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like these simple things. So.
Really simple. I love doing pasta sauces with tomato and lots of different vegetables, and you can just blend this with a little hand blender if that's all you've got at home, and you can put 5 or 6 different root vegetables, onions, carrots, tomatoes, peppers for the sweetness.
They have no idea.
Absolutely, they have no idea. You pour it on, you tell them it's tomato sauce, and they will happily enjoy this. Yeah, one of the recipes that I absolutely love, that my daughter loved right from the start, even though she doesn't particularly like avocado. I used to make chocolate avocado pudding. Have you done this one? So avocado, coconut milk, cacao powder, a little bit of honey, and then I like to add some of the oils into it. So either orange or lime or lemon, and you put a couple of drops in, and they just think it's like a chocolate mousse, and you blend it. And even though my daughter thinks she doesn't like avocado, she'll have it very regularly as a really healthy dessert, and there's no refined sugar in it. And if you're using the cacao chocolate, it's full of minerals as well. So it's actually a really healthy dessert to give them that little extra sweetness.
What we do along the same lines for the sorbet, for example, my son, who is 5 years old, he loves the grape. So I just take the seedless grapes, which are easier because then you blend everything fast enough with some honey, with some coconut milk, because then it's denser, and some green mandarin essential oil. It gives it a twist. It's different. I used to put lemon in or lime for a while, but then green mandarin was, and he says, the green mandarin, mama. So that's his. Then raspberry with lemon essential oil is the one my daughter loves. And our secret one, the adults, ours is the coconut, banana, and peppermint essential oil, because it's, so that's the twist we give in my home.
I love green mandarin. I haven't put it in desserts, but I love it in a big sparkling water. Right, a couple of drops of green mandarin, and you got it there. It's right there. Lovely. And we quite often have a mint choc chip smoothie for breakfast, and I like to hear that you've had peppermint in the morning, so I'll do it with lots and lots of greens. So it's a way of me smuggling in all my lettuce and my spinach and my greens, put mint in it and cacao nibs, and then it's like a choc chip, and my daughter always asks for this one, so very, very popular. So if I was to ask you what your top nutrition tips were for children, perhaps 1 or 2 that could help our audience, what would you say? Pavla, over to you.
Like top, I don't know what really we would like always do was kind of like I'm just talking like because now I know that Mirela's husband is Italian, almost as mine too. So what we really love to do is bolognese, because kids always love spaghetti. Yes, and the bolognese is this, for me, it's a full of nutrition food. Yes, there is a great meat, so much vegetables, because we put celery, of course, tomatoes and onion, and there's a very big portion of all these very healthy things together. So I think it's like things that kids that I have no idea. This is a super healthy food, and they eat it and love it. So.
Perfect. No, that sounds like a great meal. And to you, Mirela, have you got some top tips for children?
I will give you 3 then. The first one is always water, because this is quite an easily forgotten topic for parents. And when children express thirst, that is too late. That means dehydration. So they should be constantly hydrated. And we should remind them of that, because they play, they forget. So hydrating and making their water more interesting, what I suggest is making enzymatic water, how I call it, water with fresh herbs. I have now water with just lemon, slices of lemon, and some peppermint leaves from our garden, and then some essential oils of your choice to make their water more exciting, because they need to change. And so water is my first recommendation always. I always remind parents to be careful. Then my second one is always choose whole fruit instead of fruit juices, because the fructose in fruit juices it has such an incredible effect, and it's so concentrated, and it has a mind-blowing effect on children's brains. And you will see children becoming very hyperactive after the concentrated fruit juice. So always choose the whole thing, the fruit that comes packed with its fiber, and then its sugars will be absorbed in a healthier way. And then my third one is to think of snacks in the form of nuts and seeds, because it's so easy. You have them in your bag when you go to the park, they have them in their pockets, and it's so easy to incorporate nuts and seeds in those snacks. Nuts and seeds that I always suggest parents to soak them overnight, because that way they will eliminate part of the phytic acid in the dry nuts, and will also bring to life those enzymes in them. So those are my top 3 recommendations, I would say.
Perfect, really good. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to get children drinking more and making it more exciting, because unfortunately they're now used to things like squash and cordials, and obviously they contain a lot of sugar for a lot of children. So actually, if we make regular water flavored, you can have things like strawberries, can't you, and cucumber, and the essential oils in them, and they have this really beautiful, to me the essential oils are like nature's cordial without all of the sugar and the sweetness. So that's a great tip. One of the things that I would say for children is get them used to making food, get them to help you in the kitchen, get them to learn the skills of chopping, stirring, cooking. I think today we are teaching our children to bake a lot. There are a lot of baking cakes, but not a lot of the actual cutting of vegetables, and that's what they need to learn. This is a skill that will take them all the way through to adulthood if they learn to cook from scratch. And I know that we live in very fast-paced worlds today, and I'm speaking with 2 other working mums, and it can feel very, very tight on time just to cook from scratch. But it's one of those things that if you just have a day on the weekend when you can learn to batch cook, and you can get children cutting up onions, get them to peel vegetables, to learn how to cook really the basics, then you set them up for a lifetime of learning how to cook real food. And that's a real skill that I think we need to learn to give to our children. One of the things that I know I love to do, because I'm a bit of a foodie and I love cooking, is to add doTERRA essential oils to my cooking. And I actually have a box of the oils literally in my kitchen with all my favorite cooking oils. So I would love to learn some of the tips from you both, because I'm sure that you have the same shared passion. What are some of your favorite ways to add the oils to your food? Over to you, Pavla.
I think there are so many ways we are using in our kitchen, because my husband is really foodie too. He's loving the cooking, and we are preparing the cookbook as well. And if I'm telling something for me, I love oils in smoothies. And if we are talking about the kids, I think what we really saw is that if you want to prepare vegetable salad, I think it's something that kids like looking for it, like they will not eat it because it's only full of green things and it's not attractive for them. And if you put to the salad a drop of white orange, lemon on lime, so it turns in a second very sweet and attractive delicious food, and they will eat it for sure. So you have another opportunity how to get to the kids the vegetables. And we also using for very flavor soups, yes, for example ginger to the soup and pink pepper to the soup. So things like this. We're using all day long. We are using oils in the kitchen.
Yeah, perfect. What about you, Mirela? Have you got some of your favorites too?
Well, coming from again the pasta based family, pasta, pizza. Anyway, the Mediterranean carbohydrate based diet, which is based on healthy whole food, whole grains. Carbohydrates. I use oils in the sauces, as you mentioned before, in the pasta sauce, the pizza sauce. Children really accept it because that's the way our pizza sauce is, with some basil oil, with some basil essential oil, or some thyme, or some oregano, or it depends, we vary. Then we use, I make a lot of hummus, so I use caraway in my hummus, which I love, absolutely love, and I used to add the powder before, but now I use the oil more, and it's really great. Then breakfast-wise, we use cinnamon essential oil in our porridge, so that's another addition that we love. And again, yes, in fresh smoothies, in juices, and in those sorbets and ice creams that I was mentioning before, every day.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I think some of us are not used to adding essential oils to our food, but we have to remember that actually a lot of times when you're reading them on packets, they're quite often the essential oils that are used as flavoring, because it's one of the most inexpensive ways to add a really intense flavor to the food that we're eating every day anyway. I absolutely love adding essential oils. I'm quite a fan of orange and ginger in a smoothie. I love citrus. I love doing the ginger like you do, Pavla, in a soup. You do have to be a little bit careful though, right? Because sometimes if you tip 2 drops, it can overdo it. So one of my top tips is do it on a spoon. So drop the essential oil, particularly if you're doing things like thyme or oregano, drop it onto a spoon. And then if you do get a couple, stick that in your diffuser and then go again with just one, because the thing with using very strong essential oils, they're very powerful. But if you put 2 drops in, say, bolognese, you can completely ruin your sauce, as we've all done every now and again. And you also want to be careful about the essential oils you're using. So please be careful, because obviously doTERRA essential oils are all third-party tested. This is not necessarily the case with other oils out there. So you want to be very careful, because a lot of them are adulterated and not safe for internal ingestion as well.
And obviously for pregnant ladies and for small children, you should always consult texts and see the safety of each particular essential oil in your children's food or in your food if you're pregnant. So that's obviously important.
Absolutely. Yeah, dilution, absolutely. And yes, you're absolutely right. If you're pregnant, you want to make sure you're being careful with that. Okay, for a last question, I wanted to ask you, ladies, as we've got some real experts today on the panel, talking about normal digestion. And I think what's become normal in society is perhaps not what we should accepting, because a lot of people are living with symptoms of constipation or IBS or bloating, or symptoms to certain foods, and that has become normalized because it's very common and very prevalent in society today. So it's really important to address these digestive concerns. So while we've got some of the experts on the panel, what are some of the key things that you think are important for a healthy digestion for children? Over to you, Mirela.
Well, I think that a whole food, mainly plant-based diet gives that basis, the prebiotics we need and children need for a regular digestion and for having a healthy gut. And remember that what goes in must come out. So, and that should happen on a daily basis, even more than once a day for our children. So we should be careful that they have this digestion, and if this does not happen, then we should talk to specialists. We should look at probiotic supplementation. We use PB Assist for our children regularly for a week, and then we stop, and then because it's important to repopulate their guts with healthy bacteria as well. And also we use lots of fermented foods. I know, Vanessa, that you are a supporter of this, and you also have your wonderful recipes for how easy it is to ferment at home. And traditionally in our cultures, also in Eastern Europe, we prepare cabbage, cucumbers, naturally fermented. And my children are part of their grandparents' process of doing and preparing these foods every year. So then they see it, they do it, they eat it, and that's more healthy bacteria from that food alone. So that's quite important, and parents should be very careful that their children have a healthy intestinal transit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Fermentation is one of my passions because I think it's such an inexpensive, easy way to repopulate the gut with healthy bacteria. And it can be a flavor that can be hard for children to take on board. So you can start with literally a bit of the juice and a little bit added to food. And then once they get used to that sour taste, you can get them eating it by the spoonful. So it can take a bit of adjustment. But you're absolutely right. It's such an inexpensive way that's been used in cultures all over the world. Perhaps not so much in the West, but we need to get people more used to this. What about you, Pavla? What would you recommend for gut health?
As I said, I think I'm a long-term specialist about the gut health. Let's say mainly for adults people, but I had a lot of kids patients too with many gut problems, and it really depends. If you are talking about really healthy kids and kids with some issues, it's like of course different approaches, and we can see this different. What we do, we can handle something with food, and something we can really join to our regimen, like this. These probiotics and prebiotics. I really love the probiotics, which is like PB Assist, because it really can help restore all the inner system. And as we know, all the immune system is very important, and it's in our gut. So it's so important things. And as well as we are talking about this topic, it's very good to use the Zengest oils in many ways. We have as like touch for kids, and to massage them to the stomach or to the feet, because it's really helpful. I really recommend it to do it on a regular basis, because it's true that mainly the kids are more healthier because they are younger and their system is working better. But still, what I can see that I don't know, as I am like little bit older generation, I think I'm a really little bit older mother than you both are, so I can see the big difference in between the generation. Like is my and older, we grew in in a different environment, more or less with better food, with better quality food, yes, and the kids which are now like 20 years old, they are in a much worse environment. They are only eating the food which are more or less processed and more or less industrial way made. And as well, our small kids, they have a really big problem, and they have a very small amount these natural things. So we are much more often dealing with the problem with gut with small kids. So I'm so active to recommend it to parents to use the Zengest, probiotics, enzymes, helping kids too, and of course vitamins, and of course we didn't say anything about the omega-3 acids and so on. Yes, it's very important to keep it working.
Absolutely. My daughter thinks PB Assist is like Smoothies. She absolutely loves the flavor, and normally I give her one and she says, can I have more? And I feel a bit like, Yeah, why not? You're having more probiotics. So it's great that we've got an option for probiotics that actually kids really, really love. So for me, gut health is really about not ignoring your symptoms, because I don't know if it's the same in your country, but in the UK, it's now become accepted to have several intolerances to foods. And what happens is they ignore those symptoms, and then the amount of foods that they can eat gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And I would just encourage parents to seek help, because if your child is getting bloating, or they are avoiding certain foods, or they're getting cramps, particularly when kids are stressed, exam time, and this can heighten digestive complaints, don't ignore them. They are your body's signpost to something that needs addressing, and go out and get professional help. You know, there is help out there and resources out there to go and seek people who will give you some support and some knowledge and help you address those symptoms. So that would be my advice to parents out there. So one of the things that I think parents can be really confused about is what to give their children in their lunch boxes for school. There can be a lot of peer pressure from other children about what can be healthy to eat. How can we encourage and give our children the best nutrition in the lunch boxes at school? Over to you, Mirela. What do you think?
Well, if we think of sending the lunchbox from home, then it's great, because we have a lot of control, and we can do a good job there, instead of having them eat at school, which can vary. It varies from country to country, from also from customs of certain countries to other customs, because, for example, in Eastern Europe, a lunch is generally composed of a first course, which is a soup, and the second course, which is generally some sort of protein. While in the Mediterranean part of Europe, it's generally first course cereal, pasta, or other grains, and second course another sort of healthy protein, hopefully healthy. And so my suggestion for an easy lunch box is to have it all in one, because then you can have healthy cereal in the form of whole rice, or some sort of a rice salad where you can add in peas and carrots and the traditional Italian pasta fredda, or riso, insalata di riso. That's the rice salad. It's so easy to do, and it's so full of nutrients, and doesn't need heating. You just put it in the box, and the child has it right there, and it's nutritious. So that would be one of my main suggestions. And obviously always include healthy oils, extra virgin olive oil, which is food for their brains, because they will need both the energy from carbohydrates to continue the day at school, and some healthy oils, again, for their brain to be functioning right.
Perfect. Yeah, really great suggestions. What about you, Pavla?
I have to say that, like here in Czech Republic and in like Slovak Republic, we used to have and we still have lunches in the schools mainly. It's managed by the schools, and the truth is that they are like managed more or less pretty well. It's not tasty, but let's say the composition of the food, it's not so bad. But kids are complaining because they cannot eat it, because it's not really good, tasty. And so they so many times prefer to go to eat some fast food. So it's really not solution. And so it's a little bit problem. I think the parents need to deal with this, because on one side they have opportunity to put the kids to the school kitchen, which is like more or less good, but not tasty. And so I think there is not so many often that parents preparing lunches for kids to the schools, because it's anyway this or another way it's handled. I remember my kids, they were living next door to the school. They came back for the lunches, so it was for them great. And they made it for themselves mostly.
No, that's great. So in England, they have hot lunches too, but quite often people will do packed lunches for the reason that kids don't necessarily like the hot lunches. For me, I'm a big fan of leftovers. I'm a big fan of batch cooking. I do not have the time to cook meals from scratch all the time. So very similar to Mirela, I'll make things like big rice salads, make a dal, I'll make a soup, and I can serve that up the next day in lunch in special containers. I have little segmented lunch boxes, metal lunch boxes that we reuse. It gets out a lot of packaging, but also I can do things like hummus and vegetables, sticks, things that kids really love to kind of pick at, and that gives them all of the nutrients that they have at school. And then don't forget, then they don't have so much choice, right? And it also saves you a lot of money, and it's much more ethical. You don't have all this packaging, all this plastic packaging to deal with as well. So for me, I have the special lunchbox that I rewash, and I have a lot of parents who say to me, how do we avoid the sugar from the hot dinners, because we have desserts in this country. I don't know if it's the same way you guys are. And I think you have to be a little bit strong with the schools if that's the case, and say your preference. So if you don't want your children to have those desserts with the refined sugar, then insist that they have fruit for dessert, and then you have a little bit more control, because we are bombarded with sugar, and at a time where we need to look after our immune system, we need to think about reducing the sugar intake. So have those conversations, those open dialogues with the school, and if you are using hot dinners, get them on board with supporting perhaps healthier desserts to go alongside those hot dinners as well, so that you have a little bit more control. So that just leaves us to wrap up today. I want to say a huge thank you, and I hope you've all appreciated the skills and resources that we've got. We had a really qualified team on today. So thank you both, Pavla and Mirela, for joining us today and sharing your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
Thank you, Vanessa, for invitation, and I'm looking forward to see you.
Thank you, ladies. You are wonderful.
Wow, so much information packed into an hour. Thanks so much for sharing. If you're looking for healthy recipes for the whole family, here's a tip. Head over to our doTERRA Europe blog. There's many to choose from. For more exclusive content, don't forget to subscribe and keep watching. Our essential oil at school panel is about to start.